This is your panel for this first session. And pole kwa saumu.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to our first panel session. I'm hoping that you will help me make it as interactive as possible. So just so you know, the plan is for each of my distinguished panelists to have 7 minutes to present on their topic, and then we'll sit down and have some questions for them. And we will reserve at least 5 to 10 minutes at the end for any questions and comments from the floor. So firstly, I'd like to introduce my first panelist, Justice Lindy Inkosi Thomas. She's a senior counsel. She took silk in 2009. She is very active as a very experienced arbitrator, both domestically and internationally. She also undertakes litigation and other aspects. Lindy is a judge of the High Court of South Africa, and she's a board member of KJAC, the chairperson of the government committee. And she's also a member of AFSA, which is the Arbitration Foundation of South Africa, the management committee, and she's a chairperson of the AFSA Municipal Arbitration Division. Justice Lindy will be taking us through the role that institutions can play in influencing the development of arbitration law and supporting the legitimacy of arbitration. And she'll be speaking in particular from her perspective as a member of KJAC Johannesburg. We have the privilege today on this panel of having 3 different voices we'll hear from. She will be the first from South Africa. We'll also have a voice from Beijing, and then finally from a bit closer to home from Nairobi. So I think they all have very interesting perspectives, and I hope you'll find it very engaging. Justice Lindy, please welcome.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, honorable judges here present, the chairperson of the Nairobi Center of International Arbitrations, chairpersons of the various KJAC centers, distinguished guests. It gives me great pleasure to stand before you this morning and to share with us our experience as KJAC Johannesburg and as AFSA as regards the voice that we have added to the development of arbitration law, not only in South Africa, but internationally. There has been a rapid growth in Sino-Africa trade and investment that is part of the reason why KJAC as a project was called into existence. Now, I suggested to you that arbitral institutions act as a voice. Indeed, KJAC Johannesburg has been active in that role, both domestically and internationally. In the first instance, what KJAC Johannesburg set about to do after its establishment was to interact very actively with the government of the Republic of South Africa with a view to seeing to it that the International Arbitration Bill, which had been under consideration for a considerable amount of time, was passed into law. As we speak today, thanks to the voice that both AFSA and KJAC Johannesburg have added to that debate, to that conversation, we have the Act having been promulgated in December of 2017. What that Act seeks to do is to domesticate the ancestral model law, because hitherto, South Africa's legal infrastructure when it comes to international arbitration was incomplete. That is the first major contribution that AFSA and KJAC Johannesburg have made to the development of arbitration law in South Africa. In the second instance, the role that AFSA and KJAC Johannesburg are playing in the development of arbitration law internationally is that we have secured ourselves a seat at the BRICS table. As one of the member states, AFSA is actively involved in the creation and the development of an arbitral mechanism that would be uniform and homogeneous and applicable within the 5 BRICS member states. The intention is to utilize the CAJEC model as a prototype of that mechanism that we are actively engaging on. The work that is underway in that regard is threefold. One, the development of the panel of arbitrators within the 5 BRICS member states. 2, development of the rules of universal application as within the member states. And 3, to ensure that, or rather to obtain recognition, as it were, of the BRICS legal forum within the formal BRICS summit or BRICS, what shall I call it, the formal BRICS structure. So that is where we are also adding our voice as AFSA and as CAJEC. And lastly, we are active in getting ourselves heard, and this goes to innovation, that goes to creation of a reservoir of skills and expertise in arbitration as a specialization. What we are working on is we have established a project, the project being that of confidential clerkship. And how that works, we believe, first of all, that is the first of its type in the world. So what we do is that when we appoint arbitrators, we simultaneously appoint an apprentice arbitrator who would work closely with the arbitrator in a particular matter. We are amending our rules accordingly to make provision for this training innovation, and we trust that it will ensure that we build a reservoir of qualified and highly skilled arbitrators going forward. That, ladies and gentlemen, takes me to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justice Lindy. That was incredibly on point, and I'm pleased to say that you've left us some time towards the end for more questions, so thank you. My next panelist is Dr. Fuyong Chen. Dr. Chen is the Deputy Secretary General of the Beijing International Arbitration Center. Dr. Chen is the Vice President of the Asia Pacific Regional Arbitration Group, which is called APRAG. He is the General Editor of the Beijing Arbitration Quarterly, and he's published over 10 journal articles on commercial dispute resolution. In his spare time, he's also the co-author of the Chinese Arbitration Law and China Arbitration Handbook. He's also the Chinese co-translator of Gary Bourne's International Arbitration Law and Practice. Clearly, Dr. Chen is multi-skilled and multifaceted. He has extensive experience in handling various commercial disputes. Dr. Chen is going to be taking us through the potential for case managers and technology to transform the administration of arbitration, and how at Beijing International Arbitration Center they are performing case management. Now, just so you know, I've seen some of the figures of the cases they're handling, and they're quite astonishing. So we're looking forward to learning a lot from him in terms of technology. Welcome, Dr. Chen.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. I was assigned to talk about the potential for case manager in technology to transform the administration of arbitration. Thank you. Yeah. This is a very important topic, but has not received enough attention so far. The moderator imposed a 7.5 minute time limit on each of us, so I will try my best. So hope you also try your best to follow me. So I will divide my presentation into 3 parts. First one is why arbitration institutions matters. The second is what technical measures are employed by BAC to relieve the concerns of users on the time and cost. The third is where may the Chinese conventional wisdom in the Western conventional wisdom meet on the role of case managers. So, as you all know, the common complaints from the users on international arbitration actually are inefficiency in high cost. However, the time and cost generally are no problem at all in Chinese practice, especially in the cases administered by the BAC. So why? Before touching upon this, please allow me to do a very brief introduction of BAC. Established in 1995, and by the end of last year, we have accepted cumulatively the over 33,000 cases. So, whoops. Did I move? Oh, yeah. This is the annual caseload of BAC over the last 10 years. It reached a record high number on last year. It is 3,055 cases. And this is the amount in dispute over the last 10 years, also reached a record high number over the last 3 years. And although BAC based in Beijing, we have around 60% of cases involve one party, at least one party from outside of Beijing. So that means our caseload come from every corner of the China. And this is the, on each year, we have around 50 to 70 or 80 international cases. And cumulatively, we have around 800 international cases, and with disputing parties coming from around 40 countries, including Kenya and other African countries. And okay, this is important. You know, although we have very big caseload, but on average, we conclude each case is under expedited procedure is around 70 days. And for the common procedure, the average time for concluding a case is around 140. Under our rules, if the amount in dispute is below 1 million, roughly like 15 million shillings, so it will be apply expedited procedures. I will also share you two statistics not related to this topic, but still might be of interest to you. So there are 454 appointments go to arbitrators without Chinese nationalities from 2005 to 2017. And as some of you know, in some renowned international arbitration institutions, actually the appointment go to the female arbitrator is very low, but under BAC's practice, we have around 40% of the appointments goes to female arbitrators. And BAC's experience actually was introduced in some renowned journals like the American Review of International Arbitration, like the Construction Law Journal in UK. They take BAC as an example to illustrate the Chinese experience of institutional arbitration. So, whoops. Let's move to the second part. Like any other KJEC centers in Nairobi, Johannesburg, Shanghai, and Shenzhen, we have the state-of-art facilities. But what we're most proud is the technology. Whoops. Since the establishment, we developed a case managing system so that every cases could be run through this system. We also have online platform for users and arbitrators. As a decision parties, you could file a case through our online case filing system. In the arbitrators, also you have the arbitrators online office, so you can track every step of the cases. And we also developed an inquiry system so that you can, through this system, you can know the very specific background of arbitrator. You know how many pending cases, in how many times the disputing parties already appoint these arbitrators, so that you can make sure whether he or she has made disclosure properly. And also we have quick calculation of arbitration fee and also litigation fee, so that you can compare whether go to arbitration is cheaper or not. So based on the three system, we have some measures are employed by the BAC to increase efficiency. Based on this, based on the technology, so that these measures could become possible. So the first one is limitation on arbitrators' caseload. So according to BAC's Code of Ethics of Arbitrators, an arbitrator is not allowed to accept new appointments when there are 10 or more pending cases under his or her name. And this requirement encourages arbitrators to conclude their cases as efficiently as possible so that they can accept more new appointment. And also, the second is the availability requirement. Even arbitrators may not be available for a first hearing within 60 days. And after the constitution of arbitrator, he or she is not allowed to accept the appointment. And also, the third is prompt delivery of award. The presiding arbitrator is expected to provide the draft award within 30 days from the last hearing and or the last submission of the parties. And the co-arbitrators are expected to provide comments within 5 days of receiving the draft. So, you know, when after the last hearing or the last submission of the parties, our case managing system will send a reminder to the arbitrators, say, hey, it's time for you to draft the award. And if the presiding arbitrator upload the award, it will automatically remind the co-arbitrator, say, hey, come on, to offer your comments. Yeah. So every step was recorded under this system. And also, you know, we have mobile access in notification. That means, the arbitrators, every step, you can just upload, you can track and through the system. And also the electronic signing. When the award is finalized, the arbitrator can sign it by using electronic signing system, which work even via a mobile phone. You know, so if you just send to different places for 3 arbitrators to sign the award, it will take time. But now you can do it by your mobile phone. The next part is about the measures employed by BAC to reduce the cost. First is distance filing, as I mentioned before. Even neither the claim or the counsels, especially those reside outside of Beijing, are required to come to BAC in person. The submission of documents can be done by post or courier or through the online case managing system. And also the second is strict ad valorem charges. So if you compare, unless you have other agree, the charge of BAC is based on the amount in disputes. And if you compare with any other international arbitration institutions, you will find it is the most, the fee is most reasonable. Yeah, sorry, 1 minute, yeah. So, and you can also compare with the litigation fee. The third is the facility. BAC offers hearing room in recording service in Beijing and no additional charge. And also we have published the comprehensive background for each arbitrators. You can find these arbitrators, how many times he or she was accepted as co-arbitrators or presiding arbitrators or sole arbitrators, and how many cases still pending. Yeah. The last part is why about the role of case managers. Traditionally, China's arbitration institution will assign each individual cases a case handling secretary, which play a much important role than case manager. Under international practice, after the establishment of arbitral tribunal, the case manager had nothing to do. But under BSC's practice, we call case handling secretary, always there in place to assist the tribunal to handle all the logistic and procedural measures. So that's our experience, just try to allow the arbitration institutions play an active role so that the arbitration proceedings can be run in an efficient and cost-effective way and be tailored as appropriate to each dispute. This concludes my presentation. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. We now have our last panelist, Lawrence Ngugi, who's our registrar and CEO of the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration. Lawrence is doing a fantastic job in promoting the NCIA, both in Kenya and